Thanks for joining us on Tandem Radio for a very special segment, By Design, focused on helping you understand how God designed you so that you may be healthy and productive in fulfilling God's purposes in your life for many years to come. Now let's join our host, health expert and public speaker, Dr. James Proodian.
Welcome to the By Design radio program. My name is Dr. James Proodian of Proodian Healthcare and ProodianHealthcare.com, where health literacy is the key to longevity. And as long as God has us on this side of eternity, my show is designed to educate you and your families to feel better, function better, and live as many quality disease-free years as possible. Thank you for joining me this week. And I wanted to thank those of you who have been emailing me and commenting on the show, and also those of you who have become blog subscribers. My primary focus in my educational work is to render education at no charge, whether it be my public speaking, my radio show, or my blog, which I blog every Wednesday. So if you're interested in this subject matter, and this past week I spoke at a insurance carrier to their employees, and I shared with them the conversation is one that should continue going after I do 60 or 90 minutes at a company. So the blog site, which is drproodian.com, and that's spelled Proodian, just allows you guys to read a real simple one-page blog each week. And each week I blog on a health matter. Some of it is topical as to what's going on in the country at the time, or sometimes it's just about something that is of importance to me that I wanted to share with my audience. So again, that's www.drproodian.com, and you can become a subscriber. Luke 1:37, for with God nothing is impossible. And I'm going to be sharing with you today some case studies, which are really interesting because, again, with God nothing is impossible. And the show is going to start off today because we're going to highlight today's show with some recent articles, a recent article that was posted on Bloomberg this week. And then we're going to take what the actual, or what is going on in our country and in the world in the field of clinical nutrition, the incidence rates of obesity and diabetes and such, but what we could do about it. So if nothing is impossible through God, what we then have to do is take action. And for the last few weeks, while we're under the banner of nutrition, and I don't know what week we're in, but right now, you know, I think we're on show 14 or 15 under the topic of nutrition. Our job is to take action. What is our call to action? So as much as sometimes statistics could be doom and gloom, our job is then to say, well, what am I going to do about it? And I have some really cool case studies that I wanted to share with you today of people who actually said, this is what I am going to do about it. Last week, my blog was entitled, Why Personal Responsibility Must Dictate the Future of Healthcare. And it was a blog basically going through the fact that healthcare is at an unsustainable economic cost to our system is no surprise to anyone. And the fact that the government and the government's role, along with food companies, really aren't doing much about it is also not a surprise to me or people in my field. So the personal responsibility angle that I wrote about this week was that we need to be equipped to take back our health and to know where those obstacles, those hidden obstacles that they've put into our society, our pitfalls can be. So whereas last week I spoke about personal responsibility, this upcoming blog I'm going to be writing on the government's responsibility along with food carriers' responsibility to limit or to control toxic food in our environment. A few weeks ago, I spoke with you guys about high fructose corn syrup and how that was invented by, some guy named Bob in a laboratory around 1980 in Japan. And since that's been introduced to our food supply, obviously the FDA and our government had to approve its use. And then every manufacturer of food started to use it because it's a cheap source of sugar. And it also does something very interesting. It blocks the production of a chemical that notifies us that we're full, so we overeat when we're consuming high fructose corn syrup. And it's also sweeter than sugar. So this has caused a whole host of nasty chronic illnesses like obesity and high blood pressure and heart disease and type 2 diabetes. So I think we're both in this together, both the government, food companies, and our personal responsibility, but I'm not going to wait for the government or the food companies to catch up to us. I think that we have to be knowledgeable in our day-to-day in understanding what our responsibilities are. So this past week on Bloomberg on April 4th, you could look this up if you'd like to get the whole report. Waistline index grows as emerging markets eat fast food. And what it is, it's a really startling, the 3-page document or so on how our food now is being imported all over the world to emerging economies and what the result is. So a couple of paragraphs that I want to read to you. Eating less home cooking and consuming more processed snacks and sugary drinks. The average man is gaining weight in Mexico, Brazil, and Chile faster than the worldwide average, according to the Waistline Index compiled by Bloomberg. The women too, except in Brazil, where they're kind of holding the global average. In all three companies, fast food is a relatively new option. Men in Mexico gained an average of more than 15 pounds from the opening of the first fast food outlet in 1985 through 2010. So in China, where the rate of diabetes will surpass that of the United States by 2030, according to the International Diabetes Federation. That's a startling one. Let's just stop there for a second. The fact that China will have more type 2 diabetes than the United States by 2030, which is 17 years away, 18 years away here, is really a startling statistic, because the chronic illnesses that have been plaguing the United States for so long, as they emerge into the world market, the cost, again, isn't just ours. It's on the world economic stage. Let's continue. The science clearly links eating out with obesity, said Margot Wootton, Nutrition Policy Director at the Center of Science of Public Interest in Washington-based advocacy groups. Restaurants need to realize that eating out is a big part of people's diets, and they have an important role to play. It's not just fast food companies that are responsible. People are consuming more processed and packaged foods from grocery stores and moving to cities where they live hectic lives and don't have time to exercise. So what's the name of the show? By Design. What is our design, and how has man implemented his design into God's design? And once that happens, like I just read to you, between processed food, hectic lifestyle, no more family life, not eating around the dinner table anymore, the chronic illness epidemic has epidemically grown. So all of us, when we go home and we look around and we plan our weeks out, these are eye-opening statistics, not just for me to read them to you, but for you to say, well, what am I going to do about that? Let me make practical changes in my life to avoid these pitfalls, because these pitfalls are disastrous. You're dealing with chronic illness that takes years off your life and also ushers in a whole host of pain. Finally, I like this one. Pizza is not an everyday meal. It is a treat. Tim McGuire, a Domino's spokesman, said during an interview. Customers have full control of determining how indulgent that treat is, because they can customize crusts and toppings, including the amount of cheese. So here's a spokesman from Domino's saying what I say every day: let's define treat as a treat and a meal or food as food. Oranges, grapefruit, kale, dark green leafy vegetables, lean sources of protein, healthy nuts, and water are food. Domino's high fructose corn syrup, processed food are treats. The problem is 90% of the American food budget is spent on processed food. Listen, if it was 10%, I wouldn't even be on the radio. We wouldn't be having this conversation. But when 90% of what Americans are eating are defined by someone who works at Domino's as a treat, that's when we have real problems. American consumers have a lot to do to undo the damage of the last few decades. Average American male has gained 19 pounds since 1980, and females 18 pounds. So in looking at what is happening globally, no longer on a local front, Weight loss, and now if you start connecting the dots from my detoxification seminars that I did, and I've done some work on stress with you guys, epigenetics, nutrition. Let's start connecting the dots on what weight loss is. I get a big kick out of people who say to me, I want to lose weight. And I say, well, what are you going to lose? The body is made up of water, bone, muscle, fat, air. What are we losing? Why can't we be descriptive and talk about body composition as opposed to weight? Because you learned during the detoxification seminars that I did with you, it's not healthy to lose weight quickly. You're dumping large amounts of fat which contain toxins into the bloodstream. So I have a case study here, a 41-year-old female that we monitored over 1 year in my office. She presented to the office at 54% body fat. The average woman should be under 30. 54% is moving radically towards either a stroke, heart attack. She was already type 2 diabetic. She weighed 273 pounds. And this is a case, this is a patient that is on the verge of dying. She was only 41 years old, and she was 54% body fat. Of the 54%, she was 149 pounds of fat. We have a specialized scale that we could actually determine how much of gross body weight, in this case 273 pounds, how much of it was body fat, in this case 149 pounds. So a year later, she went from 273 pounds to 207 pounds. So is that the biggest loser contest? No. That is someone who strategically took off 60 to 70 pounds of weight under the guidance of a professional and went from 54% to 43% body fat. Her fat mass went from 149 pounds to 90 pounds. That means the majority of the weight that she lost was measurable, and it was pure body fat. Now, she is well under 30% body fat. And what I wanted to share with you guys is the human body is resilient. Never think for a moment you can't make change. In the field of nutrition, the most wonderful, fulfilling thing that we see every day in practice are people who take the time, the attitude, who make changes in their lives. Here is a 41-year-old female who started off at 273 pounds. Now she's well under 200 pounds. And it wasn't that she was losing the wrong type of weight. We monitored her bloods through the entire process. We watched her triglycerides and her cholesterol, and all of the bioindex measurements come down. And that's just one case study. Well, I'll be sharing more with you next week. And the show is really designed today to share with you some statistics, and also to say we could all be doing things better. We could all be doing things in the way God designed us. Thank you for listening to me this week. I hope you have a blessed week, and please go to drproodian.com and become a blog member. And remember, small changes are big changes. It just takes attitude, attention, and it takes all of us taking back our health. Have a great week.
You've been listening to By Design with Dr. James Proodian of Proodian Healthcare. To learn more, visit us at tandemradio.com, that's tandemradio.com, or on Facebook. And don't forget to email us with your questions. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, hope you have a healthy week, and we look forward to you joining us next time for more fantastic insights from Dr. James Proodian on By Design, a special production of Tandem Radio.